Hello everyone, it's Deborah at Attic Lane and I'm here with another card for you, this time inspired by Wendy Gage at Cardio Cards. Now for this I'm using 4 ink pads. They are Chateau Grey, Orange, Bamboo and Green Tea, and I'm using 3 of the stamp sets from Cardio Cards. I'm using the pumpkin and the marrow from the Garden Hose Down set, and I'm going to create masks. So I've stamped them in black ink and I've cut them out. And I'm starting with a white base card, and I'm going to create a scene on my card. So I'm starting with making a little hill behind which I'm going to set most of my scene. So I've selected the shape that I want, and I'm just going to use some masking tape to keep that in place as I'm working on it. And this is bamboo. And I'm just rubbing some bamboo very gently on there with a dry baby wipe. And now I'm masking off this bottom half that I've already inked over, because I'm going to stamp just above that line, and I'm going to take a tree from the Tall Trees set and I'm inking it up with Chateau Grey. Now I had some problems stamping with this tree, partly because it's so long and I couldn't quite get the middle to stamp properly, so I'm using quite a thick foam pad underneath my card and I'm going to stamp onto that. So you'll see using that foam pad underneath does give a very good impression. And I'm going to print a second tree slightly lower down. So now I'm going to use the shed from the blower and the mower set, and I'm going to stamp in the middle of this with umber, and I'm going to go around the edge, around the outside of it, with Chateau Grey. This will give the shed a little bit of extra colour and definition, but I don't want it to be strong in the foreground. I want it to be very definitely in the background. And I'm stamping it higher than my hill because I've got to allow room to put in some pumpkins and some marrows, and I'll show you how I do that now. So I stamp in the middle of each of the stamps with orange, and then because the orange is quite a strong colour, I'm just rolling the stamp around to take off some of the orange around the outside, because I'm going to go on the outside with some bamboo, and I'm going to fade that very softly into the centre just by moving my stamp pad into the centre, and then I'm going around the extreme edge with green tea. And you can see it gives you a slightly different effect. It's not just a block colour. And I'm going to mask this off because that will then allow me to add a marrow. And I'm doing exactly the same technique in the way I colour up the marrow. I'm going around the edge there with the green tea again, and I'm going to stamp that into position. And I like that. I think that looks really good. Now I'm going to mask up my marrow. That's a phrase you don't think you're ever going to say. And I'm going to keep doing the technique that I've showed you with the 3 different colours, masking off when I've completed each little section, and moving my way along that hill line. And here you can see why I decided to cut out 2 masks of each of the shapes, because if you want them to overlap, you might just need 2. And there we go, and the line is complete, and as I pull back my little green piece of masking at the bottom there, you can see it looks as if there's a massive pumpkin patch just sitting behind that hill and just in front of the shed. So now I'm going to use a branch from my Tall Trees stamp set, because I want to add a little bit of interest in the top right corner. And the 2 colours that I'm using to colour up the leaves are sage and bamboo. And again, I don't want these to be dominant, I just want them to fill a space very, very softly. I want to try and give the effect of a misty morning perhaps. I'm using the same technique of the sage is the block colour that's gone in the middle, and I've used bamboo to go around the outside edge of that stamp just to colour up the edge of those leaves. And now I'm using the single leaf from the same set, colouring it up the same way with the same colours, and just adding a little bit more leaf there. Now, because I happen to also have the Backyard Blooms stamp, I've decided I want to add a spider because it's autumn. And the colour of pen that I'm going to use is a distress marker. It's old paper, and it's an exact colour match for the Chateau Grey that the branches and the tree have been done. I didn't have a suitable sentiment, so I'm just making up my own sentiment using this stamp set, and I decided to go with Autumn Falls. And I'm going to put a border around the outside edge using my black marker pen. Now I'm going to mask off these pumpkins, this pumpkin line, so I'm using a piece of tracing paper and I'm putting it in position over my line of pumpkins, and I'm just going to trace the outline along the top of the pumpkins with my pencil. So now I'm going to cut that out, and it's important to cut out exactly on the line. I've got two halves now, and that top section is what I'm going to use to cut out something else. This is actually a template that I'm going to use on some double-sided adhesive film, which you also can get from Cardio Cards, because I'm going to add something extra just to complete this card. So I'm laying my card down on the double-sided adhesive because I want to know exactly how much adhesive I'm going to need to cut, and I'm going to trace my template line again all the way along, and then I'm going to cut it out with my scissors. Once that's cut out, you can see the two pieces from my tracing paper and from my double-sided adhesive fit exactly. So now I'm going to cut off the underside of the adhesive and stick it over the top of my pumpkins. And now I've got my clear glitter ready, and I'm going to pull off the top piece of paper protecting the adhesive, and I'm going to drop glitter onto the adhesive, and you'll see the effect that it gives. And if you rub your finger over it, that will stop any glitter escaping and going everywhere. So I'm going to say thank you very much for watching, please subscribe, and I'm going to leave you with some music and some close-ups of the card, and I hope you enjoy it.